In today's day and age, there are not many studios left that are universally loved and appreciated. Blizzard is practically gone, Bungie will never be the same, Rare is a story of old, and Bethesda, well, Bethesda made Fallout 76. And only few great studios remained untainted. And of course, one of them was none other than CD Projekt Red, the Polish studio that made legendary Witcher series. And when they announced their new IP, people went wild. And when it finally hit the shelves, well, things went horribly wrong. So wrong that it took them 3 years to fix it, but they actually did it. But in order to understand what happened to Cyberpunk and where it is right now, we need to quickly take a look at the past, starting from announcement of the game. When the game was announced, people went wild because they were expecting same polish and same quality as from Witcher series. For many people, Witcher 3 was the game of the decade and they expected something very similar, but in a more futuristic setting rather than in a magical fantasy setting. And the hype was growing and growing and growing right until the launch. However, there was one thing that could be predicted but was often overlooked by the fans, and it is the technical aspects of the game. You see, many people were forgetting that even the Witcher series had some issues and difficulty running on the last gen consoles like PS4 and Xbox One. If you would compare console versions with its PC counterpart, you would see that PC was way beyond and far more superior than its console counterparts. And even in the days of Witcher 3, PS4 and Xbox Ones were already too weak for CDPR games. And with such powerful and such detailed worlds as in Cyberpunk, consoles were not ready for this. And that's what happened on release. When the game released, everyone quickly understood that it was far from being complete. And the main issue, of course, was the consoles. Consoles were far weaker than the PCs. Because consoles of weak capabilities, game was supposed to be optimized for the consoles first. And well, they weren't. And because of that, PC suffered as well. Game was mostly unplayable, and when it was pretty underwhelming because of the technical issues. The issues with the technical aspect was that the game was so reliant on its stability that it would take you away from the game's immersion very often and very abruptly. And this severely damaged game's storytelling and writing. And for that reason, people slammed it on release. For some people for whom game ran pretty well, they enjoyed it quite well, but they did not love it. And for most, they simply could not play. But the true story of the game started after the release, because when the release was done, CDPR started cooking. And well, they cooked for quite long. As soon as game was released, CDPR started releasing a bunch of hotfixes and patches. Because now they were not restrained by any release dates, they could work on the game as long as they wanted until the game was fully fixed. And despite updates and fixes being quite slow at first, it quickly accelerated. And by the version 1.5, game was practically fixed, at least it was on the PCs. But the game fully spread its wings when it got released on the next-gen consoles. Now game was practically done, and with the patches 1.6, game just continued improvement, and with patch 2.0, game got practically fully overhauled. But is it any different? How game differentiates from its release stage, and is it any different from what was promised? You see, one thing that was pretty much amazing with the game that was severely damaged by its technical aspects was the writing and storytelling. CDPR are masters of that, and the world of Cyberpunk 2077 was insanely beautiful and detailed. Everything had a story behind it, every place had a story to tell, everyone had a story to tell, and every character was so detailed and well written that most likely you would absolutely love them or hate them just because of what they are. Game was beautiful. And when all of the technical aspects that was playing it was fixed, game suddenly came back to life. You see, when I first completed the game, it was pre-patch 1.5. Even though game was more or less running much better than it was on release, the technical issues were still there, and it was taking me away from the immersion so many times that, to be fair, I did not enjoy the story that much. But when I played the game again and when I completed the game again, well, it's completely changed my view of it. Game is amazing and absolutely beautiful, and it is everything that they promised it to be, at least in the beginning. And the biggest changes were in details. Small details altered the game quite a lot, and probably 90% of them were in technical aspect and in a gameplay aspect. Even on launch, many people did not enjoy the gameplay aspect, well, when it was working. It did not feel like RPG at all because you were not really able to fulfill any roles in the game. Well, it's now completely changed, especially with the patch 2.0. Now, builds are actually quite viable in the game, and every perk is actually useful. You can play this game in whatever way you want. You can be sneaky assassin, or you can be a chopping ninja killing everyone with melee weapons. Or you can be a brawler that demolishes everyone with bare knuckles. Or you can be a netrunner that is devastating enemies well before the fight actually starts. This role-playing abilities actually enhance the game quite a lot, giving you a bunch of different ways to play the game. And most importantly, you can actually respec any talents and perks in the game to play it completely differently. Game also has a bunch of different skill checks, giving you ability to complete missions in a bunch of different ways or access the points that were usually inaccessible beforehand. Most of the things in the game was reworked. Melee combat is now viable. Cars actually drive now much better and feel more like a GTA. Shooting is very satisfying, even though enemies are still bullet sponges, but you can always up the difficulty if you want. The quick travel system has been upgraded. Now practically every important mission point is close to a quick travel point, and then most importantly, game world now feels like a living, breathing society. And probably the most important thing is that the game actually runs now much better. Load times are quick, especially if you're running it through SSD, and game feels exactly what I myself was expecting when the game was actually launched. So if you're asking yourself whether it's a good time to get into Cyberpunk or return to Cyberpunk or not, well, I say absolutely. Game feels and runs insanely well, and now with the added content of Phantom Liberty, if you have game already completed, now you have something else to go towards. Now you have some other things to do as well. But even if it wasn't the case, and even if everything was not fixed, game also has mods, and modding scene in the game is thriving. There's practically a mod for anything that you want in the game, and when you kit out the game fully with mods, game just transforms into something else entirely. But what to do with it is up to you to decide. Does this mean the CDPR is back? Well, I can say it is. But I doubt that gamers would forgive them something like that second time, because waiting for something to be playable again for 3 years is kinda too long. But I guess it's better late than never. Well, this is it for today. Thank you for being here with me. Like the video if you like it, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. See ya.